There you go.
All right, very good. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this, our third installment of GeoGebra's free live webinars to help introduce the new GeoGebra grades 4 through 8 um, supplemental math resources. We're very excited about the resources that GeoGebra has created. Basically, I think they came out, I guess it was just this past August, right before school. Lebo and I have done let's see, our first month, October, Lebo, we did number sense. And then November,
Correct.
it was operations,
Operations and
right?
now
And
algebra.
today, algebra. So
Mhm.
let me just introduce myself. I am Robert Pontecorvo, the assessment and relations lead for GeoGebra. And running our program for today is Professor Lebo Valencia. So, Lebo, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. Rob, thank you for the introduction. You make it sound like I'm an important person or something. So thank you for joining us. This is our last webinar of 2023, but not the last webinar for GeoGebra. We are excited to talk to you about GeoGebra and the new resources. As Rob mentioned, these resources started coming out like towards like mid this year, but they're still coming out. Like every week, when you go on the GeoGebra site, we'll show you there are new resources for all the different topics. So as Rob mentioned, for today's webinar is dedicated to teaching algebra using GeoGebra's latest resources. So my name is Lebo Valencia. I am a big GeoGebra fan. I work as a high school teacher in New York. I also teach at two different colleges. And I'm just like a big GeoGebra fan. So tonight we want to get started and show you, give you some, the goal is to give you some tools, give you some ideas so that you can bring them back to your classroom as early as tomorrow. So let's get started. We always like to start by having people share. So if on the chat, you could let us know, what do you teach? Where do you teach? And what is your X or Twitter handle if you have one? So what do you teach? What grade levels? What topics? What subjects? Where do you teach? Where are you connecting from? And what is your Twitter handle if you have one? Oh, Raman, thank you for turning on your camera. It's nice to see a person in there. Yeah. All right, so please let us know, what do you teach? Where do you teach? And what is your Twitter handle? And that's right. I see that Rob mentioned on the chat that all the previous webinars are on our the GeoGebra YouTube channel. So if you missed one of them, feel free to visit the channel because they're all there to my knowledge.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Also, everyone, just so you know, Lebo's asking about the background that you teach in, because one thing he likes to do is make these webinars specific to the individuals that are here, right? And what resources might be of more interest to you. So we've got someone teaching third grade, secondary mathematics, again, primary mathematics, another primary mathematics, Lebo. So really the exact correct crew for what we're talking about here with these resources.
Yeah, perfect. That's right, because our resources are currently aimed towards oh, Javier, welcome. Javier, I gotta tell a funny story. I was telling Rob that I have an uncle in Colombia whose name is Javier Valencia. And I was thinking, oh my God, is he connecting right now? Welcome, instructional coach in Elizabeth, New Jersey. So it's not my uncle, Rob, for sure.
Okay.
All right. Oh, we got people from Australia, Rob. This is officially an international webinar. That is amazing. That's so cool.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you for joining us, everybody. All right. So thank you. So again, so officially I teach both high school and college. Unofficially, I'm also teaching elementary to my daughters. I have a little one in pre-K, and my older daughter is in third grade. So I am happy to share some of these resources because I found them particularly very, very helpful with my daughter. Okay, so let's get video cam early. Oh, no problem, Vincent. We can see you now. You look like $1 million. We're good. All right, let's get started. So tonight, we are going to, here's the agenda for tonight. we want to talk to you about the resources, specifically the algebra resources. Currently, I believe there are 110 resources. I could be wrong. It could be like more because like every day, GeoGebra is adding new resources. So the first part is like talking to you about these resources. We are going to have a live exploration, including how to use these resources in GeoGebra classroom mode. And hopefully by the end of the webinar, you'll have some ideas in how to use these resources as activations, like you're doing now to start the lesson, exploration, practice, and assessment. So you could like run your lessons through like the resources, or the resource could be a specific part of the lesson. It could be how you start the lesson, or it could be like to consolidate your lesson at the end. I don't know if there's anything that you want to add, Rob.
Limo, we're getting some really good comments. People looking forward to the resources and talking about how they want basically to help a way or have a way to teach algebra and to make it fun. And so what I just mentioned was one thing that's really what you're about is math and
Oh, 100%.
fun. So I just posted onto the website, onto the chat, that people could certainly check out your book, Math Play. For those of you who don't
Oh,
know,
thank
Lebo is the
you.
author. Yep, I posted a
Thank
link
you.
to where they can see a copy of Math Play, and it's something that
Thank
might
you.
interest them.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep.
So let's get started. So if you haven't, if you're not familiar with the main GeoGebra site, and I know that Rob right now is like dropping that link on the chat. If you go to geogebra.org/math, it brings you. So let me show you how to get there. Let's say that you just go to the GeoGebra website. So the GeoGebra website looks something like this. The only thing that might look a little different on your end is that if you notice on the upper right side, you have a little picture of me. So because right now I'm logged in into my account. You don't need an account to explore resources for what we're doing tonight. But if you there are some advantages into having an account that we'll discuss in today's webinar. So once you get to the GeoGebra main site, to get to the resources on the left side, you literally have a tab that says resources. So if you click in there, it's going to bring you to the GeoGebra math resources. And as you can see, they're organized by topics. So today we are actually discussing algebra. So currently we have 110 resources. And then on our two previous webinars, we discussed both number sense. That was the first one that we did. And the one that we did last month in November was on operations. Those webinars are on the GeoGebra YouTube channel. So tonight we will be exploring algebra. So we have in here all kinds of like highlighted resources. And one thing that I want to bring to your attention right now is like, just on like looking at this you're going to see that some of the resources say exploration, while some of the resources say practice. So that's important. That's something to keep in mind, because that gives you a sense of like, that gives you options in how to use them with your students. So let's click on algebra, because today's webinar is on algebra. So when we click on algebra, you're going to see that within the topic of algebra, the resource broken down into like grade levels. So you have upper elementary right now, grades 4 to 5, and then you have middle school grades 6 through 8. And then you can see that all the different topics within each resource. You have algebra's patterns, divisions, equations, mathematical expressions, multiplications, order of operations, and then you have some older options for equations, functions, inequalities. So if there's anything that you're currently teaching, or that you know that you're going to be teaching in the upcoming weeks, in the upcoming months, let's pick, for example, functions, right? That's a big one. So if you click on functions, you could see what GeoGebra currently has there, and maybe it could give you an idea of, oh, like this is something that I'm going to be teaching, or this is something that my students are struggling with. That could be something that you could bring back to the classroom. So there are different things in here. I encourage you to like spend some time like looking through what we have, because it could, chances are you're going to find something that is helpful. Also, even though it says grades 4 through 8, I can share that I've used some of these resources with my daughters who are like pre-K and third grade. Also with my high school students, that is grades like 9 through 12, and even with my college students. So don't let the, 4 through 8, there's nothing in here for me. I can tell you that these resources can be expanded, expanded to like either younger students or older students. Rob, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add.
No, I think that's excellent, Lebo. I did want to point out that The difference between an exploration and a practice. I don't know, are you going to get to that a little bit later? Should I mention it now?
Oh, you could mention it, yeah. You could talk about it.
So the idea is that both are teaching tools, right? An exploration, with an exploration, there is no right or wrong, right? A student is brought through the work and the example and the activity where it gives them signals that they're making things happen the way they're supposed to make happen. And there is no right or wrong in an exploration, right? As a matter of fact, even in a practice, where there are actually rights and wrongs, right? Questions could be right or wrong. GeoGebra, as always, is very gentle. If a student gets it wrong, they get a chance to do it again. If they get it wrong a second time, GeoGebra gives them a hint. If they get it wrong a third time, well, GeoGebra will not just give them the answer, but explain the answer and give them another chance at another lesson. So it's very important to remember that all of these resources, the exploration and the practice, are all teaching tools.
Exactly. All right. And so today, let's give you a sense of what each type of resource looks like. So again, this is everything that we currently have for algebra. By the way, another thing that is, this is not static. Like currently we had 110, but that collection is growing. Like you might check tomorrow and you might have more resources. You might check next week and you'll have more resources. So let's start talking about an exploration type of resource. So as Rob mentioned, when we have an exploration type of resource, and you're going to see that it says exploration, what the goal is for students to explore, to like get familiar with the topic. So let me see if we could drop, Rob, are you able to copy and the link into the chat?
Let's see. In other words, I can't copy it from, oh, let me get it off of, I see what you're saying. Yes, let me go to the deck. I will do that.
Thank
Hold on, let me
you.
find that slide. Yep, I'm pulling up your deck.
So
Here
we're
it
gonna,
is. No, wait, I'm not actually able to pull that up.
I got it. Let me see. I think I got it now. All right, so I think I just posted, if you go in the chat, I just posted this exploration link to.
Yes, that worked. Yep, that worked.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Now, what
Visualizing
everybody should keep
algebra
in mind is
equation.
that these resources randomly generate different questions in different numbers. So the one
Right.
that they actually opened up in front of them might have different numbers or values than the one that you're demonstrating, but it's still the same type of question, just
Correct.
everyone gets a different value.
Which is important. Like if you think about it, imagine like all your students, you don't want students to like be necessarily working on the same thing. So having them explore like the different the same type of question with different numbers might be beneficial for you as a teacher. So a couple of things that I want to bring to your attention. When you look at this, notice how it says author GeoGebra content team. So GeoGebra has like millions of like users around the world. So there are many users that make up their own resources. Some of them are fantastic, some of them are amazing, and some of them not so much. So if you see a resource that is created by GeoGebra, that is something that is safe for you to use, okay? Like it was the GeoGebra team who put it together. There's a team of people who put it together, review it, and then put it out there for teachers. It has the topic. It tells you which type of resource it is. In this case, is an exploration. It tells you the grade levels, and it tells you the skill that is attempting to have students review. So in this case, our job is to build this equation. So we have 3x plus 5 equals 44. So students, like this is very intuitive, and the technology for the students is at their fingertips. So they're going to start playing with the sliders and say, oh, now this 1x, 2x, 3x. Notice how the color just turned green. And then if I keep going, it goes back to blue because what I need is 3x. So they have this visual component to help them figure out that, okay, like this is what I want. Now I also need a plus 5. So I'm going to add 5. Notice when I got to 5, the color was green. If I keep going, so you might not necessarily be seeing the same equation. You're probably not. But the way you interact with the applets should be the same. And then on the right side, I want to have 44. Notice how right now it says that is not equal. And then once I make it to, notice, see what is happening there? So now once I make it to 44, not only does it turn green, but now I get the equal sign. So now at this point, your students were able to set up the equation. So they have this virtual visualization of the equation. And now let's solve it. So for your students, what are you going to tell them first? What are you going to do first? Well, first, I want to let's do this slide. So first, step one, I want to subtract 5 from both sides of the equation. And then I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to subtract 5. The 5s are going to cancel out. And it's going to show them what is happening with the equation and how does that represent, like how does that transform, or how does that look, what does that look like on the balance? And then I'm going to divide by 3 on step number 2. And then you can see, that x equals 13. So all your students are going to be able to play with this, whether it's an exploration, a do now, or a way for them to interact with the topic. This is a great resource. As soon as the students are done, they can click on new problem, and now they got a brand new equation. For students that might be struggling, this is a very safe playground where they're not going to make mistakes. They're just getting familiar with the topic, and it's very, very, very user friendly. I have my daughters in pre-K and 3rd grade play with this, and they love it. So let's do another one. So you're going to play with this, 4x. Now I'm going to go to 10. And then by doing this, the students are actually, setting up the equations, and then they can also interact and see how to solve this equation step by step. Because most chances are they're going to be solving these equations on paper, so they can see, okay, when I'm doing this on paper, what is it that I have to do? And what's happening on the steps, they see the visual on the balance scale. And there you have it, and they can solve an equation. Again, notice all you needed was the link to be able to play with this. So you could share a link with your students through your LMS, or put it on Google Classroom, just send them the links somehow, and then they can play and interact with this type of of resource. Now, if we scroll down a little more, we have put it all together. So now you have some follow-up questions that you might want to give your students. And then below that, you also have some more resources. Some of them might be prerequisites that the students need to be able to play with this applet, or related resources or topic or resources for the next level. I don't know if there's anything that I'm leaving out, Rob, anything that you want to add?
Well, Lebo, we're getting some really nice comments about, about how beautiful this is and how it makes what, they used to do obsolete. And I say this, GeoGebra never forgets that the most important, or the second most important person in that room is the teacher, right? The students are the most important person. The teacher is the second most important person in that room. And nothing that the teacher does would ever be replaced. And GeoGebra has no desire to do that. All they're doing here is giving you an additional tool in your toolkit to make what you do better and more effective for your kids. As a matter of fact, I do want to point out, Lebo mentioned the questions down on the bottom for putting it all together. Some teachers use those questions to give to their students. Other teachers use those questions simply as guides to what they might want to ask their kids, right? And discuss with their kids out loud, right? Some of you might have this up on a smartboard or Prometheum or whatever you use, I don't care, up in front of the class, and you'll use this to drive the conversation that you would normally do while you're teaching. And that's what these questions can also do, is act as a guide or a prompt to the teacher about what you might want to think is important when the kids are working on this resource.
All right. We have some questions. I see that the chat is chatting. We're getting some nice questions in there. All right, so let me go back and now show you. So let me go back to my presentation. So that is what an exploration type of resource looks. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to show you what a practice resource looks like, but we also want to have you explore that in classroom mode, because that's pretty cool. So I'm going to open the resource. This is what the resource looks like. I'm not going to send you the link yet, so just be patient with me. So this is what the resource looks like, right? It's called Systems of Equations Puzzles Game. This could be a great way to like a great activation to get your students started, to get them thinking, and it's very user-friendly. It's very inviting. It's very intuitive. So let's say that your students get this type of a puzzle, right? It's like a system of equations type of puzzle. So notice the topic is equations. Now we have practice. It says grade 6 to 10. It says the skill. And one thing that I want to bring to your attention is unlike the other one, now we have a total score here, right? And we have a check, right? So now there are more components into this. So now I know, for example, that in here, I have the shape and the total is 27. There is 3 of them. So I'm going to say, okay, this must be 9. Because 9 times 3 is 27, right? Now here, I have 4 squares. add up to 18. So I'm going to say, okay, this must be 6. Now that I know that this one is 9 and 6, well, I'm going to say this is 9 and 6 is 15. And the total is 19. So this is 4. So I'm going to say this is 4. Notice how as soon as I type in the 4, I get the option to check. So it's like another type of research. So once I check, GeoGebra is going to tell me, oh, you did it correct. And now it told me that I got it, like it's counting that I got it correct. So you're about to play with this, but we want to show you what another thing that you could do with this. So right now, one thing that is worth mentioning is that I am logged in into my GeoGebra account. So in order for you as a teacher to be able to play in classroom mode, you must have a GeoGebra account and you have to sign into the account. Otherwise, you won't be able to do the classroom mode. So I'm going to go back to the resource that we're playing with. And I want to show you that
can you
on
put
the
link? Lebo, can you put the link to that resource in the chat? Someone asked for the link to that one.
I was going to send them the resource, the link for the GeoGebra lesson. Is that okay, Rob?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I was going to send them the link to the GeoGebra lesson.
Oh, okay, very good.
Yes.
So whoever just put that in the chat, hold tight. It's coming in a whole new different way.
Yeah, there you go. So what I want to show you is that on top you have assigned to. So if your school uses Google Classroom, you can assign this resource to Google Classroom. I'm going to use GeoGebra Classroom. So when I click in there, it's going to say, okay, like I'm going to create a new lesson. I'm going to call this lesson Webinar 3 and then Systems of Equations. And then I'm going to hit create. So what GeoGebra is going to do is going to create a lesson, which I have here ready. So this is what the lesson is going to look like. So as a teacher, this is what I see. Now I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to drop it in the chat. And now you're going to be able to join my lesson so you can play with the resource. So I just dropped the link on the chat. So once you click on it, you know what? Let me also copy it. So I just drop it on the chat. I'm going to open another tab. So this tab is going to be my student tab. I'm going to paste it here. All right, so as a student, this is what you're going to get. Now, if you have a GeoGebra account, you can log in to your GeoGebra account. But chances are, if a student doesn't have an account, they don't need an account. I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to join as Lebo. And then I'm going to say start. So now as a student, I got into the applet, and now I'm going to be able to play with it. Now, I want to show you my teacher view. So as the teacher, I can see that MZ joined my lesson, RG joined my lesson, John, Lebo, and William. So now I can see, as the teacher, I can see all the students logging in into the lesson live. So I see that John, for example, has not started. So as soon as you start clicking and playing with the resource, John, you'll be able to, there you go. So I got JV. I'm thinking that's Javier, William, Vincent. So now I see how many people are joining my lesson. All right. Very nice. So from the teacher view, I can see who's doing what. Now, Javier, I don't know if this is you, but I'm going to pick you. I'm sorry. So I'm going to click. Let's say that I want to see what Javier is doing. So if I click on his tab, I can see that he's got a 1 in here. Javier, I don't mean to put any pressure on you. You might just be playing with this. But I just want to show you that I can see what people are doing. Now, let's say that I go into somebody. Let's say that I go into John. And I want to show the class what John is doing, but I know, I don't want to expose John. Now, I want to show you that GeoGebra has the option to hide names. So if I click in there, now I see student 1, student 2, student 3. And then if I click on somebody's, if I want to show something, I'm not, exposing that student, right? Because students might be like, oh, my God, Mr. Valencia, don't show that, please. I don't want other people to see what I'm doing. But that is an option. So you can play with these resources. And let's see, for example, this person right now has a score of 0. I know that I have 10 students in the lesson. Now, let's say that I know that Rob is kind of like a troublemaker. He usually is. So I know that Rob is student 4. I might say, oh, Rob, let me know if you need help getting started with the resource, because this gives you like a class view of who's doing what. Because remember, if I don't hide the names, then I know who's doing what. And I can be like, oh, Linda, let me know if you need help with anything. Let me know if you need help getting started. So that way, the students are aware that you can see what they're doing. So to summarize, there's two types of resources. There are exploration resources and practice type of resources.
Lebo, before you summarize, I think you might want to pause us.
Oh, right. Let's say that I want to get people's attention. Boom. I'm going to hit pause. So now I'm so sorry. Whatever you were doing right now got paused, because now Mr. Valencia is trying to get to your attention. So I just was mentioning that we have exploration type of resources and practice type of resources. Now notice, just with the link, you're able to play with the resources. If you want to play with it in classroom mode, then you could do so as long as you have a GeoGebra account. Let me like resume so you could still continue to play with it. Another great advantage of having an account is that here, this is like my account. You can organize things. So if you, like you can see in here, like I teach trig and pre-calc, elementary, that's for my daughter, geometry, pre-calc and calc, algebra 2, Mercy College, Lehman College. So as I start finding resources that I like, I put them in folder. I organize them by folders. So when I start having like these amazing collections that I can use with my students at different levels. So if you don't have an account, it's free. Like it's not going to charge you anything. So like set up an account and you can start saving things, organizing them. And then when I create something as a lesson and I go to my profile, this is the lesson. And you can see that it says lesson in there. So if I click on this lesson, I will go back to what you guys were doing. This we're gonna keep open. So you can go back to this tomorrow, and then you'll be able to play with the lesson. Rob, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add at this point.
So only that, Lebo, we're getting some very nice feedback on the chat. And I want to remind everyone that, you know, the saddest part for Lebo and I is that we're only here together for 30 minutes. So what is our goal? Our goal is to get you to the website, right? To show you where these resources are, to show you how to play and explore with those resources, to show you how to share these resources with your kids. Then we give it to you, right? We leave it up to you to go back to that web page and look at all these different resources, not just all the resources that are in algebra, but the resources, like Lebo said, that are in all the topics that you're going to be teaching, maybe tomorrow. You know, if tomorrow you're teaching something on geometry or number sense, go to that topic, look to see what's in there and what you might want to start using in your class.
Yes. And we got a lot of like questions in the chat that you were able to get, Rob. See, because we have 2 minutes, I just want to mention that the webinars will keep going into like 2024. Our next webinar is to take place on January 10th, same time, 9 p.m. It is hard. We understand, like, because like you might be connected from Australia. So if you register for the webinar, you'll get the recording afterwards or a link to the recording afterwards. Also, all the webinars in a few days will be posted on the YouTube channel. That's another way to get them. And the next webinar, first webinar in 2024, will be on the topic of geometry. And then I think we have a QR code. If you want to go back to this presentation, feel free to go back to like use this QR code. I am pretty active on Twitter at Mr. Valencia 24. If you like reach me out on Twitter, if I have an answer for you, I'm happy to share. If I don't have an answer for you, then I'll try to like direct the question to somebody who has. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining us. I know that is late. I know teachers do too much. But thank you so much for it. We really hope that this was helpful and that you can like go back tomorrow or Friday or Monday and use this with your students. Let us know how it went. Rob and I are both on Twitter. Let us know how it went. If you have any questions, let us know. And then I think the community questions feedback email is here. Feel free to reach out. And thank you so much for joining us. I don't know if there's anything that you want to add, Rob.
Just no, thank you very much. People are asking questions also about community created resources. The community created resources are all still always accessible from the GeoGebra homepage. Just do a search in the search bar, and you can always find those. And
Right.
Also, all of these activities, we couldn't have time to get into it tonight, can be saved in folders, right? So you, just like in a normal GeoGebra account,
Yes.
you could create folders and save these in folders so that you have easy access to these resources for your other classes in the future. It is about that time, Lebo. So I think I am going to say thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Want to make sure that you realize that these webinars take place the second Wednesday of each month. Next month in January, the webinar will be on geometry. And I think we might even have another special guest, Lebo, at that webinar.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
Surprise
I don't
guest.
want to drop a name yet, but I think we're gonna have a special guest at that webinar in January on geometry. So we look forward to seeing you back. And until then, this is Lebo Valencia and Robert Pontecorvo saying thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.